Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, it's a little bit different. I'm bringing one of the team members on here, but I'll be chatting to Matt Woodard, the US Business Development Manager here at Wexer. Matt, how are you?
Fantastic, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Well, look, I'm appreciating the fact that we can go deep into some of our best use cases and also just how we're helping our partners and giving advice to partners that are listening onto the call. So I think for us, let's just dive right into Matt a little bit if we can, sir. So what can you share a little bit about your role at Wexer and what does day-to-day look like for you on the business development side?
Yeah, absolutely. So really for me over in North America, it's to manage the accounts that we currently have and finding the pain points with partners and finding out ways that we can pivot our tool to help fixate on solutions. Whether that's through adding revenue lines or whether that's through helping them with staffing shortages, whatever that pain point is, it's really finding that and figuring out how we can continue to use our solutions for that. And also, of course, it's expanding that network, right? So when you look at multifamily housing, you look at commercial style gyms, boutique, you look at corporate wellness, really just being able to showcase what Wexer's solutions, whether that's whether that be API or whether that be Wexer Virtual Player, just figuring out how that can actually help them in club or on property.
Yeah, appreciate that. And then I guess you're working with such, especially in the US, probably more than any other role at Wexer, from big box clubs to boutiques, you're working with them all. I guess what's been the most exciting part of helping facilities go virtual over the past few years?
Yeah, I think, obviously with, our history here with, 2020, I think it really just kind of, woke everybody up that there's another solution out there too. And, now that we're in 2025, I think there's some fatigue from that specific point. But what they're realizing is that the operators are realizing that there's, solutions that can help them with the staffing shortages. They can actually fix, like I mentioned earlier, they can take the amount of members that they already have and find additional ways to support them. And while they're supporting them, add additional revenue lines, which, is also helps them increase their retention at the same time. So it's really cool whenever everything just kind of the whole ecosystem comes together and you can see that, that the operators are really excited that they've been able to find an answer that they didn't realize was out there.
And what are you feeling is the biggest trends of the moment in terms of, I just came back from Singapore and Beyond Active, and even though I think we all agree as an industry that we need to support and inspire our members, and the best way to do that is live experiences, but unfortunately trying to find staff, trying to give those individuals experiences is becoming near on impossible for many operators. Therefore, embracing virtual in-club significantly. Is that one of the biggest trends, or is there more?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, especially when you think about commercial, fitness centers. They're really just struggling in regards to the staffing piece. So really, virtual has been a big fix for them to be able to find, solutions for their best instructors whenever they're either, on leave, for PTO or whatever the case might be, or holiday, or sick or whatever the case. So they're really finding that the virtual player is kind of a utility piece. But then from the, I'd say from the mobile side, from our offerings from the mobile side, what we're seeing is that, a lot of workers are remote now, right? And so oftentimes whenever you think about corporate memberships, the corporate membership entails an employee coming into the four walls. And so they're actually leaning more and more into us now in regards to offering solutions for their remote employees. And so that
Right.
I would definitely say in the corporate wellness world is something I'm hearing a lot from.
Interesting. And then I guess not to give us too much of a pitch, Matt, but what would you say in terms of why go virtual? What are some of the key objectives facilities need to be clear on when they start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, first off, I say that you don't want this to be kind of a bolt-on third-party solution. What you really want to do is you want to think about the end user, right? What's the culture? What's the personality of the demographic that you're focused on, right? And what are you trying to really harness? Where are you trying to grow? So there's a lot of questions, lots of discovery that needs to happen before we really go into this conversation. So I just want to put it out there. It's kind of like that Swiss Army knife, right? There's a tool in there for everything, but you really need to make sure you find that tool first. And so that's where we'll typically start in our conversation, is really feeling out kind of the business plan, the pain points. We don't really want to go just directly into solutions. So we'll start there with the discovery portion. And then once we really figure out what that tool is that would fit really well into their culture and their business plan, the next thing that we really want to lean into is making sure that when they launch our product, that it doesn't feel like this is our product and then this is their members, right? But rather the content that they're providing, whether it's mobile and they're creating collections and they're creating workout of the days and so on. You want to make sure that that's kind of themed and fits what you see in club. The last thing people want to think about is in channels. They don't want to think about in channels, right? They don't want to dissect this. They want to think about in experiences. And so authenticity is huge, right, as a business operator. And so you just want to make sure that your solutions that we roll out feel authentic and it feels exactly like it's an extension of what they felt in the club.
Totally agree. And then how, I think it's a big question that I think we've had for years is, defining success with digital. So sometimes it's too much, it feels like a separate business in terms of their overall plan. Sometimes it's actually too little. It's just put it in and see. What would be your suggestion here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it's kind of the $1 million question in the industry is how do you define that success for, adding virtual on? And what I always tell people is, again, thinking about the end in mind. So first off, we always go back to discovery. We talk about the why, and of course the why or i.e. the business plan changes over time, right? So we want to think about what that original why was, and then we can work our KPIs backwards from there. And then within our business intelligence tools, dashboards, and so on, we can really figure out kind of what are those nuggets, right? Is it the percentage of penetration that you're looking at? Is it that your retention piece went up? Is it that your win backs? We've got another case study where they're using as a win back solution. So are you winning back additional from offering the digital? Are you upgrading premiums? So another case study we have is where they use it to upgrade premium spaces that they offer. So are you seeing that those premium spaces are open? And then if you're in the corporate wellness side of things, I would say that some KPIs that would be really important to look at is of course, it's penetration, right? Like any kind of wellness director, they're always going to be graded on how many people are utilizing the corporate programming. And so for them, I would say that it's really going to be, are you seeing that the usage is from a certain group of people and they're the majority, or are you seeing that it's really a wide funnel and there's a lot of exposure and you're seeing that those user IDs continue to come back? That's where I'd say that we really consult into that. But again, penetration would be one, usage would be another, and then from the financial side of things, are you seeing what you wanted to see, additional revenue lines or retention go up?
And one of our big values is trust and relationships in terms of making sure that we're aligned to their goals and supporting them in their goals all the time. But there are a lot of virtual providers out there doing some version of a platform. I guess what's the key for listeners when looking at a technology partner and going digital?
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. It's listening, right? So it's, who's really listening to what you're looking for, as opposed to kind of a stamp of approval for, hey, this is the product for you, but rather, who's adding value, who's coaching you through this, but are they reliable? Are they a strategic partner in the process? And then do they leave you alone when you launch, or are they consistently walking next to you all the way through the journey?
Yeah, no, I like that. And then maybe just for listeners as well, explain how Wexer supports live and on-demand content and why it's playing a critical role in user experience.
Yeah, of course. So in regards to our product, our product line, we've got the virtual player. The virtual player is a 22-inch touch screen that's in there that users can engage with. which is really nice because from the in-club solution side of things, it really helps you kind of A/B test like different different protocols or different genres that you might not have thought about as an operator that could be huge in your space. Which we've got a couple of case studies going right now where they've been able to test that out, and what they're finding is they're actually allowing more on-demand usage. Of course, they're plugging in some live schedule, but they're allowing more on-demand usage because they really want to use this as a customer feedback loop. So that's something I would say that's huge that I've been hearing more and more about is how do I get, as opposed to sending a survey out to my members, how do I get a real live interactive, survey from them? And so that's where the virtual player can come in there. And of course it can solve some of those, staffing issues that you have as well. But then from the mobile side, as we talk about kind of corporate wellness, or we talk about one of our multifamily housing, they're going to be going through a construction project right now. And so they're actually going to be using a free access code to be able to hand to different residents as they go to the gyms, since it's going to be down for a few months. So it's just, again, it's so utility in the ways that you could use it. But, you've got that side of things too, where you can offer that as a solution to add revenue, again, like I mentioned, or to just increase satisfaction with the residents if you're talking about multifamily housing.
Yeah, no, good example. And I guess, we're hearing so much about blending in-person and virtual experiences. Like, for the listeners, what are the best ways to create consistency across both?
Yeah. Again, I think it's making sure that what your club feels like is exactly what your virtual role feels like. And then of course it's the first thing that we always coach them on is we need to make sure that that you're getting your staff bought in, right? So the staff is going to be the people who see the most. And so one of our clients right now, they rolled out a contest within the staff to be able to see like whose favorite content gets played the most, right, by the members. And so just kind of coming up with crafty ways that gets the staff engaged. I'd say that's the number one way to have a successful launch. And then of course consistency is key. So always making sure there's fresh product out there, or that it's scheduled if it's in club. And then finally making sure that you're whatever it is that you're running in club, that you're also seeing that through virtual. So it's not just if it's in club, that it's not just a 22-inch screen right there, but rather it's an extension of the other marketing promos that you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important in terms of that blending experience when you're using local stars, how important they see that as a pathway. The fact that they're essentially on a big billboard or on people's devices, doing the things that they love, i.e. delivering classes, or helping and supporting members. That's critical. And so as a career pathway, going from instructing in a group exercise room to then delivering content, persona led, is so powerful. And it's, again, from a demand point of view, it's exactly what members want. There's nothing like, if I buy into Matt at a 9 a.m. class on a Friday, having Matt also train me, because I know his personality, is so much stronger than any influencer that you could imagine. So it's something that, of course, we've seen significant growth in, we're seeing significant usage in, but still not completely adopted across many operators, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just actually had a consult a couple of days ago where, the pain point of the gentleman I was consulting with had mentioned, he said, listen, I just, like, my favorite instructor, the one that has this huge following, I can't get him in here enough, right? And so the people just cannot see him enough. And that's where we really lean into the virtual. And to your point, it was really, hey, how can we get some recorded, content from this instructor so that, you can scale their presence into others. And then there's another use case that we have where, they've got some more rural clubs or out in suburban areas. And so they're finding that it's easier for them to, get talent in the urban clubs, but it's harder for them to get it out in the rural clubs. And so they're using that content that's actually been recorded by their instructors, to the other locations. It's a little harder for them to find that same talent at.
Yeah, no, well said. And then I guess thinking about this as well, like how important is that brand's alignment and building user trust across channels as well in this regard?
I think like anything, right? Authenticity is huge. Making sure that people don't feel like you just kind of slapped a sticker on it, so to speak, but rather that you've really thought this out and and that what you're doing in your business model is kind of seeping through into every avenue, and virtual is just it's another one of those avenues. Just like you see ancillary or quote unquote pay to play programs, you don't want necessarily an SGT program, a small group training program, to feel like it's out of left field whenever the club really hypes a specific kind of outcome. You want to make sure that the design of the club, you want to make sure that the pay to play programs, that they all fit into it. And I would just say that's the same thing with virtual, is really thinking about how do you strategize that. And then as things change too, as your kind of the model changes, making sure that you're staying up with that, and that virtual doesn't stay behind, just like with all the other pieces or the other verticals within your space, that you're moving your virtual side with it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then I guess in terms of keeping things fresh and aligned with member goals, I feel like naturally local stars do that, but let's say they don't have the ability to create local stars. Like, what would be your recommendation to operators listening in?
Yeah, of course, I work for Wexer, right? So I'm going to tell you that we've got 50 different channels, the world's top-notch trainers and Group X instructors, and including everything from yoga to kids fitness, to audiophiles, right? We've got a little bit of everything. It's just incredible. And so I would tell them that having a portfolio, like anything else, that's very diverse, you'll be able to find within 2,900 pieces of content, you're going to be able to find something that identifies. So again, it's scalable, right? You might not have, all 2,900 pieces fit exactly what your brand is, and that's fine. But rather what we want to do is we want to be an extension to the support that you already have in club by offering all the different partnerships that we have.
Yeah, and I think my advice as well would be, when you've got some type of personas that are embedded in your kind of member journey, that makes it a lot easier for us to kind of connect with those personas and what content we should be delivering. But in truth, when you look at especially the in-club virtual mobile, you can use personas because it's so broad. But when you're looking at the in-club virtual and a site specific, you can literally look around your membership options and membership people that are actually in the club at those particular times, and then start making sure that the schedule aligns. How often we're walking into clubs and you've got, not to say that mums don't like doing high intensity boxing classes, but a lot of the times I see a club at 9:30 with mums in there already doing stretching, yoga, all of that type of stuff, and they've got these high intensity classes playing in the group exercise room, and it's so off. It needs to be more yoga, more meditation, more wellness orientation. So how easy it is to ask the members that are in a bunch, would you like to do this virtual class now? And how often that answer is 100% yes, because they're looking for more guidance, is a wise move.
Yeah, great call out. I think I see that in my local gym that I go to as well, right? So you see that there's more of kind of like a silver sneaker population that's in there, during that 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. timeline, and then you'll see that it's the content fits that, right? And so I would just to your point right there, is just making sure that you're following the different groups that come through your space, and making sure that if it's live classes that you're booking in there, that you're making it match that at the same time.
Yeah, nice, man. And then I guess we launch our stats every year in terms of most used content. I think a big rule of Wexer always has been let the consumers choose what's right. That's why we have such a broad library with such a broad levels of influencers, content partners, because they will tell us what's right. So what content formats tended the best in terms of short themed, progressive? Yeah. What's the best?
Yeah, so I could tell you kind of like in a macro picture, I would say that it's a 10 to 15 minute hit style programming, strength, focus as well. So that's where we'll see that if you look at it macro. But you can kind of break into like a more micro into the different sectors, right? And so I would say corporate wellness is for sure going to be like some more of our nutritional content. It's going to be that they lean into. It's going to be some more 10, 15 minute stretch programs, right? So again, it's that Swiss Army knife where there's a little bit of something for it. Just depends on the outcome you're looking for. But I would agree with you that it needs to be digestible, right? And then I would also use, as we look at mobile, I would say the daily workout feature that's in the web player
Yeah.
is really nice, because we all know that it's about habits. And what's that study show that, like, I think it was like 50% of members leave their gym
Mm.
by
Mm.
June, July. Like, that's just incredible how many people are slipping through. And they signed up with this motivation. And they say that the number one reason why people quit those goals is the perception of time. It's not actually time, but it's the perception.
Mm.
Like, how long do I have to keep doing this? And so if we can create bite-sized successes, like, i.e.
Mm.
the daily workouts, then that creates a high retention rate in regards to coming back. But when it comes to first getting engaged with it, you for sure want to have a bunch of like 10-15 minute pieces to give them quick wins.
Yeah, and to your point about that, onboarding and member induction, of course, getting the first, we always used to say, get the first 66 days right, because that's how long it takes to create a habit.
Mm.
What is the best, you've worked so many different facilities, like what have you seen that is the best to drive initial engagement?
Yeah, I think making sure, first off, what is the why behind what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's always huge. And then secondly, breaking that down into steps, right? Like, what does success look like? And I'm not talking about from a KPI standpoint, but from a usage standpoint for each
Yeah.
individual. And then making sure that there's some kind of, fun recap at the end that you've got, whether it's a competition you're running, or just recognition for the top groups, or something social that you're doing with them. But just making sure that there's recognition at the end. And we all know that if they start to feel the success too, that they're going to continue on, because success is addictive for sure.
Yeah, well said. And then I guess, in terms of, it still shocks me every time we do our surveys that 50% of people don't even know that the virtual exists in their club, or that they can have access to mobile services to help support their goals whilst they're not in the gym. And I personally think that the staff are just such a huge part of promoting that on a regular basis. What's your view on that? You've seen that yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I think staff buy-in is huge, and that's why a couple of case studies that I'm happy to share is that the first thing we did with the launch, which was very successful, over 100 people coming in for the first day, and it didn't have to do with the first day and like signage that was out there, right? It had to do with us engaging the team member and having them come in and doing different competitions, and running having them select their favorite genre or favorite class, and just really getting them engaged so that they were searching through the content. I do think that there can be like a little bit of a paralysis by analysis, right? So there's 2,900 pieces of content, so that you can get a little paralyzed by analyzing where to start. And so the biggest thing we want to do is just make sure they start with awareness. That all together starts with your staff. How are you engaging that staff to make sure that whenever they're on tours, they're not just saying, oh, and here's the virtual player, but they're saying, oh, let me tell you about this class, right? And hitting the button and telling them how to engage with it. It's different whenever you get excited because you've actually participated.
And then flipping that, again, looking over the years, the most successful operators, I always say that you can't manage what you can't measure. You've heard that many times from me, Matt. But we know that when they're in, the dashboards that we have built significantly throughout time, that we know that they're more successful. We even know the ones that log in are more successful. So what should they be watching for weekly and monthly in their statistics?
Yeah, I would say in the beginning, it's all about awareness. So once you get the buy-in from whether it be team members, or I think it starts with the team members and then cascades down into the members, right? But once you get that buy-in, it's really about awareness and getting an idea of what's the traction on that. So penetration rate is something that we always watch. And just based on my observations, you're usually looking around, anyone who's doing it great and truly leaning into it, and kind of like maybe even a little bit tech forward. Style company be around 10%. Anything that's companies that are really more focused on this being a support or an extension of usually around maybe 5% usage. So you really just kind of want to know what does good look like for you first. Again, that's where that consult, that discovery process, where I can support on that, so that we understand like what do we want to get to, and then let's work our way backwards. But I would say it's for sure going to be engagement. How many of your people are you engaging? Then we can start like peeling the layers back and looking at the business intelligence and all of that fun stuff through your dashboards to see how many times are they repeating now, and then what kind of content, and start kind of gleaning some information that will help you as an operator to, continue to, tweak, adjust your in-club experiences as well.
And one thing I've always challenged, but I'd like your view, and this is me being honest, is, we've done so many different integrations over time in terms of camera integrations to justify numbers, to swipe integrations, to tap before the class. And like, to me, it just comes down to the basics of, making sure you've got the schedule with the right type of demographic that you're doing on that hour, adjusting that on a regular basis, because that changes, especially with people working from home, managing the statistics, and managing that room on a regular basis to make sure it's, the standards are high. That's, for me, is always, you tick those boxes, you succeed. Like, is there anything else that I'm missing in that? Like maybe a better question is, what's the one thing that operators shouldn't skip in their execution?
Oh, good question. In the execution of it, if it's in club, of course, let's say that you've already checked the box, that the awareness is out there, the team is already, come to class. You've got some, maybe even you've got some like local rock stars that have, recorded some content, just started, right? Like, that's the big thing, is just start somewhere and continue to develop there. Sometimes I notice that it's just like, when you think about virtual, sometimes the operators, one of the things I can tell you is that the operators will start to overthink everything and just get caught up in that loop. And my advice to them is just start and see where it goes from there. But scheduling out content is a great way to just start and see where the traction, goes from there.
Yeah, well said. And I guess, actually I want you to take your time on this one, because I think the listeners would really appreciate it. In terms of just like what would be your perfect step-by-step guide for setting up a virtual facility?
Yeah. So I think first off, you gotta start with the clear goals. So what's the why? What are you trying to get to? You gotta pick the right tech partner. Okay, so that's what we're here for. And then you integrate with your brand. So making sure that it integrates with your brand, but it's not like a third-party bolt-on, but rather it feels smooth and flows through. If you're looking at mobile, and then if you're looking at virtual in club, again, that the content and everything, and the way that you've got the classes set up and all of that it feels smooth and flows with your brand. So it's not two different kind of concepts, right? And then just, I would say, launch with a purpose, right? So not just launching to check the box off and say we're doing digital, but the one thing I've seen people do successful is that when they launched, we had multiple meetings with onboarding and customer success, whether it be Ryan or Karen, just doing fantastic work with them, and really getting an idea of who they're looking to service, and making sure that when we launch virtual, that it's, again, not just a box that's been checked, but rather that that we know exactly how that flow is going to work, and we're walking kind of hand in hand with you. And then we're checking the success with it too, so we can reevaluate and make sure that it's hitting those benchmarks. And the final thing I'd say, I think, is really some things I've seen that the partners are doing successful is keeping it fresh. So we've got some support, or some ways that assist you with that. For instance, one of our features is auto rotate. Really cool feature. You can literally tell it exactly how much time you have, what days you want to repeat, set and forget, right? And it will find the genres and within the parameters you gave it. But just keeping it fresh as you go through. I think that would be my kind of takeaways.
Yeah, well said. And then I guess, for you, what's the not to be negative, but I think it's sometimes important because people can learn from people's mistakes. Like what's the most common mistake that you also see from operators, and how to avoid them?
Yeah. So first one I would say is not starting.
Yeah.
Thinking too hard and long about it, but just get started. And then we support you from there. But, once they're started, I would say it's really, I would lean more into the kind of keeping it fresh and just continuing to make sure that digital is an extension of your brand. It's not here to replace anything in club or that feeling, but rather it's here to support your brand. So when I say that, when your business model changes and adjusts, which it's inevitable that it's going to happen, you're pulling virtual along with you as opposed to leaving it behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And then where can people go to learn more about launching with Wexer?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can either go to our website, Wexer.com, or you can go to my LinkedIn. Again, my first name is Matt, last name is Woodard. Or feel free to email me at matt.woodard
There you go. And then I think, yeah, signing this off, I kind of said it on stage at Beyond Active in Singapore, but, I feel as an industry, the core of our industry is to make sure that we're supporting and inspiring our members at all times, and building their confidence so they go from needing support to actually just needing inspiration. And I think the revenues that we can ascertain from being able to build more confidence is just so significant. We'll be able to look at more penetration numbers within the industry, but content and helping support those people 24/7 and take out all the excuses is so critical. Like, I think that we underplay as an industry how much media it plays a part in regards to how much that support and inspiring does. I feel like sometimes we're losing our ability, influencers are taking that sometimes more than our clubs, and that's probably sometimes not the best advice. If that still gets them to move and gets them to our gyms, that's great.
Yeah.
But once they get into our gyms, that's when we need to make sure that we've got scalable products that deliver for them on a regular basis. If it's a dad needing to do a really quick workout, doesn't know what to do, he chucks on a virtual session. If they're in a hotel room, they need mobile services under the brand that you've worked hard to get them to join, then great. Whilst he's live,
Yeah.
he's joining it. So I just my plea to the industry is the fact that we need to make sure that we deliver such amazing services, but we need to make sure that that's scalable and delivering that 24/7. And Wix is here to help you do that.
Yep, absolutely. And Paul, I would tell you that I can't remember like how many times as a personal trainer for over 10 years that I would have someone come to me and say in a consult, like, I'm going to come back to you when I'm prepared, right? So they would go in and they would do all their pre-work, and that is well said. I think digital and virtual is a great way to help people feel like they're in a comfortable, safe space to be able to prepare themselves to come in and get that additional support.
Perfect. And then, look, Matt, thank you for everything you do. I know everyone always raves about you in regards to the US, and you've opened up many markets for us in terms of supporting more people. So thank you for everything you do, Matt, and thank you for joining the Wexer podcast.
Thanks, Paul. My pleasure. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Matt. Bye for now.